Ooh, another white boy with a podcast. Pronouns, gymbro, another white boy with a podcast. You want to see the video? It went viral.
Hi gains gurus and welcome to TMGP, the Muscle Growth Podcast, episode 13. I am your host, Roscoe, and today we are welcoming me, Roscoe Kirby, onto the show. In line with the show's format, I will give you an introduction and a deep dive into my life. But if you want to skip all the fluff about me, please feel free to do so. As you should all know, I'm just another white boy with a podcast. Jokes aside, I am a full-stack software engineer with an undergraduate degree in mathematical science, majoring in computer science from Stellenbosch University, and a postgraduate honors degree in computer science from the University of Cape Town. I am a former top tennis player and squash player, having represented my province, Western Province, via Pierre Racketlon, multiple times at multiple levels, ranging from under 11 through to under 19. I also won the South African National Championship Racketlon tournament. After school, I played Marties, Stellenbosch University's nickname for its students, tennis, squash, and table tennis. I soon dropped the squash and table tennis to focus on tennis, academia, and gym. I'm going to try to give a chronological timeline of my life, so let's start at the beginning. I was born at Vincent Pallotti in Pinelands, Cape Town, South Africa in 1999, April 24th, for those who want to send me gifts or wishes. My mom is a teacher and a tennis coach. My dad is an insurance broker. Sport was a major part of both of their lives, and I inherited the sports bug from them. I grew up on the tennis court from the age of 4 years old, often joining the Racketlon girls' junior school teams in their practices. In junior school, I also swam, ran middle distance and long distances. I could never sprint, and played A-team hockey, cricket, tennis, soccer, and squash, but never rugby. This became an issue for others later on in life. I represented my province, Western Province, in tennis and squash in junior school, and then throughout high school. Teachers at SACS told me that tennis was a gay sport or a sport for girls. This did not faze me too much. Even as a 12-year-old, I knew that some people's ridiculous opinions were just not worth stressing about. In high school, I dropped swimming, cricket, and running, but remained fit doing tennis, squash, and hockey. I also had a strong inclination for academics as well as music, playing the alto saxophone and piano, despite what my recent circle DNA analysis might suggest. Unfortunately, those talents have been lost to time, but I would like to relearn sax again at some stage, preferably the tenor. I was ranked in the top 10 in South Africa for tennis, and I went to all of the tournaments throughout the country. Unfortunately, due to being forced to play hockey by my school on the weekends, I was unable to continue going to tournaments during the winter terms, and my ranking plummeted. I still managed to make the Masters every single year, which was the top 8 players at the local tournaments. I fell in love with a sport called Racketlon, which was quite big in Europe at the time. The game involves battles across 4 racket disciplines: table tennis, badminton, squash, and tennis. I was very competitive at most of these sports, and I managed to win the South African National Championships for Racketlon for under 14, under 16, under 19, and under 21, and I ended up ranked in the top 100 in the world for Racketlon. At Stellenbosch University, I was given a tennis scholarship as I played for Marty's first team. I also briefly played for the Marty's squash team as well as the table tennis team, where I actually won a bronze medal at an intervarsity doubles tournament. I was also captaining the Res table tennis team in my first year at Metanoia. I have been training in the gym since I was quite young. I started my gym journey at Virgin Active Claremont and Constantia, where I did not really graduate from the circuit for fear of being judged by all the bigger lads on the weights. I joined the gym almost immediately when I came to Stellenbosch, not the Virgin Active, thank goodness. For those of you who know the one, You know why. I joined the high-performance gym known as Marty's Gym, or SUSP, Stellenbosch University Sport Performance Institute. This has been one of the best investments ever. Please, do not move to Marty's Gym though, as it's already very full. I only trained a few times per week because I did not want to gym and play sport on the same day, as it was too much. I could get away with table tennis and gym, but not squash or tennis and gym. Coming into university in 2018, at 6 foot 2 inches or 190 centimeters, I have subsequently shrunken a few centimeters somehow. I weighed a measly 70 kilograms. After my first year of training hard and bulking, I weighed 80 kilograms, mostly thanks to new muscle tissue accrual. I kept training hard at tennis, gymming hard, and learning hard. I went up on tour to an inter-varsity tournament known as Top Schools, where it was the best universities competing at Sun City. It was at this tournament that I suffered a wrist strain. The strain was looked at by the tournament medic and physio, and they said it was still playable. So I played, and it got so much worse. We won though, so maybe it was worth it. I was literally holding onto the racket with my left hand and using my injured right hand to stabilize it. Well done to my doubles partner and one of my lifelong best friends, Racketlon, for carrying us over the line. Shout out to Brendan Thomas for being a phenomenal coach too. Unfortunately for me, the injury put me out of tennis and gym for a long while. I went to GPs, physios, sports doctors, and even the hand and wrist surgeon at Vincent Pallotti to try and fix it. It really did not get better quickly, and part of the problem was that no one really knew what the problem was, despite having top-tier professionals assessing it. They all gave varying opinions on what was wrong and what was the best way to treat it. I was given the usual advice, which is super outdated and incorrect, of RICE, rest, ice, compression, elevation. I've written an article on why RICE is stupid and better alternatives that you can check out on my Medium blog at Reps with Roscoe. I have a really cool episode in the pipeline where we will talk with the author of a paper called The RICE Protocol is a Myth, a Review and Recommendations. So stay tuned for that episode. But alas, that was the advice, as well as anti-inflammatories, which again, probably taken for too of an extended period is not going to be helpful. Anyway, time managed to heal me in the end. After I stopped the rehab and the anti-inflammatories, I started getting back to gym with my arm in a cast, doing as much as I could. Eventually, I started playing tennis slowly again, and I built up strength and muscle at the gym again. It was coming to the InterVarsity National Championships known as the USES. I had played in the 2018 USES, but this one was at home in Stellenbosch for the first time ever. I was so stoked and excited to play. The tournament was scheduled for the beginning of December 2019. Unfortunately, disaster struck, and I was not able to play. I was following the advice of our strength and conditioning coach for the tennis team, who had assured us that the only way to squat was ATG, arse to grass, as they say. Despite fundamental differences in everyone's anatomy and biomechanics, I was doing a set of 80 kilograms, which was about my body weight at the time, so not a lot of weight by any means for many gym goers. When I was on my second last rep of my 6-rep set, I felt something go wrong in my lower back. It felt off. However, I was going quite heavy for me, had just taken pre-workout, so I was on a caffeine high, and I was in the zone. And I had just one more rep, so I figured in that split instant decision that maybe doing a final rep would actually realign or correct whatever had just gone wrong. Boy, was I mistaken. I went down and immediately threw the 80-kilogram barbell over my head and fell to the floor in agony. I managed to pull myself up the gym stairs with my back bent in an arch position and managed to get myself down the stairs to the Marty's High Performance Gym's reception desk. The person working reception took one look at me and asked if they could call an ambulance. I declined and decided to call my dad, which I did. Luckily, he was at a lunch with a doctor friend who gave me a prescription and I was taken to a clinic. I was then given bed rest for weeks where I could not walk or move and was really confined to my 2 meter by 2 meter res room in Metanoia, Stellenbosch. I was devastated to miss the USA that I'd been training so hard for and had been so excited to participate in. Stellenbosch managed to bag a phenomenal second place, but who knows where we might have been if I had been able to play. Once again, the doctors were stumped. I was given major anti-inflammatories, pain meds, Tramadol to be exact, and told to rest and ice once again. It was again after months of rehab and physio and doctor visits that I decided it was time to take my health into my own hands. I heard someone say, you've got to be the CEO of your own health, which is actually far more complex than it sounds. But it was after this particular injury that I decided I needed to bulletproof myself, and I realized that I wanted to be much bigger, stronger, and better. Hence the podcast slogan. This would make me more capable in gym and improve my confidence as well. It would also translate to improved sports performance. It was then that I became fascinated with fitness, gym, health, and the like. I became obsessed with channels like More Plates, More Deads, Greg Doucette, Jeff Nippert, and many others. I wanted to figure out how to maximize gains using science and technology through techniques like min-max and other optimization techniques that I had learned in operations research, computer science, and mathematics modules at university. I went through my struggles with multiple misdiagnoses, bad advice, incorrect medications, and the like, and that became one of the main reasons why I started this podcast. It was so that other people did not need to struggle like I did, and so they can at least have someone point them in the right general direction. Again, disclaimer, this is not medical advice in any way, shape, or form. It is purely informative and should be used for educational purposes only. Unfortunately, there is too much media and money involved with places such as Men's Health, often giving unrealistic beauty and body standards to the public, with total BS nonsense being spewed left to right and even center. Fitness influencers or fitfluencers are often not much better. However, we will not be having such people on the podcast as far as I can help it. I am trying to recruit real people who have done amazing feats like Ashley Hoyter, Jenny McCall, and researchers like Dr. Pack, Dr. Wolf, Max Coleman, and Jake Remmert. Coaches who know what they are doing like Big Coach Benjamin Yeezers, Coach Morgan, Coach Leo, Coach Jared, and health experts like Riley Jarvis and Dr. Vonda Wright. I aim to deliver high-quality information that is accessible to all. I just want to provide value without being overly biased or money-driven. On that note, that takes us nicely to the Gains Guru's hypertrophy blueprint that I and many others have been developing. The overarching objective of the hypertrophy blueprint is to deliver substantial value by offering accurate, evidence-based information supported by scientific research. At its core, this blueprint is driven by an unwavering commitment to the pursuit of muscle gain, also known as hypertrophy. Our primary aim is to empower individuals with a comprehensive and reliable resource that not only helps them understand the science behind muscle growth, but also equips them with practical strategies and techniques to achieve their hypertrophy goals effectively and safely. We recognize the importance of clarity and credibility in the realm of fitness and muscle development, and our mission is to bridge the gap between scientific knowledge and practical application, ensuring that individuals can embark on their journey toward enhanced muscle mass with confidence and success. Reduce friction, exceed limitations. That is the slogan for the Gains Gurus. So welcome to the Public Gains Gurus Hypertrophy Blueprint. As you can see, we have topics ranging from diet, supplements, training, recovery, muscle science, professional gains gurus, contributors, and of course a disclaimer. I'm going to go through the diet tab on the blueprint. I'm not a nutritionist, and these are just based on studies that I found and articles and the likes. So use for educational purposes only. Do your own research. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through some of the information that I found. I'm going to go quite quickly, and I'm not going to really go through the source titles or any of that stuff, because if you want to look at that, you can just look at this. It's a free resource for all. All right, let's go. So different columns represent different things. So basically, I'll start by saying the nutrient or the substance, and then I'll say what the aspect of that particular nutrient or substance is, and then I'll give the information that I think is quite important related to that aspect and that substance. Okay, the first item on the list, general macronutrients. The composition of diets for bodybuilders should be 55 to 60% carbohydrate, 25 to 30% protein, and 15 to 20% of fat for both the off-season and pre-contest phases. During the off-season, the diet should be slightly hyper-energetic, approximately 15% increase in energy intake, and during the pre-contest phase, the diet should be hypo-energetic, approximately 15% decrease in energy intake. Sufficient protein, 1.6 to 2.2 grams per kilogram per day, should be consumed with optimal amounts, 0.4 to 0.55 grams per kilogram per meal, and distributed evenly throughout the day, 3 to 6 meals, including within 1 to 2 hours pre- and post-training. Fat should be consumed in moderate amounts, 0.5 to 1.5 grams per kilogram per day, and the remaining calories should come from carbohydrates, with focus on consuming sufficient amounts greater than equal to 3 to 5 grams per kilogram per day to support energy demands from resistance exercise. Creatine monohydrate 3 to 5 grams per day, caffeine 5 to 6 milligrams per kilogram, beta-alanine 3 to 5 grams per day, and citrulline malate 8 grams per day might yield ergogenic effects that can be beneficial for bodybuilders. Caloric intake should be set at a level that results in body weight losses of approximately 0.5 to 1% per week to maximize muscle retention. Within this caloric intake, most but not all bodybuilders will respond best to consuming 2.3 to 3.1 grams per kilogram of lean body mass per day of protein, 15 to 30% of calories from fat, and the remainder of calories from carbohydrate. Eating 3 to 6 meals per day with a meal containing 0.4 to 0.5 grams per kilogram body weight of protein prior and subsequent to resistance training likely maximizes any theoretical benefits of nutrient timing and frequency. Generally speaking, the macro ratios for building new muscle tissue will be 20 to 35% of your calories from protein, 40 to 55% from carbohydrates, and 20 to 30% from fats. The American College of Sports Medicine recommends a 20 to 35% fat intake for athletes. There is some evidence to support that around 0.3 grams of dietary fat per kilogram of lean body tissue. Carbohydrates amount. 4 to 10 grams of carbohydrates per kilogram of body weight appears to be a good ballpark amount. 5 to 6 grams of carbohydrates per kilogram of body weight per day, 55 to 60% carbohydrate of total diet. During the bulking phase, eat about 4 to 7 grams per kilogram of body weight of carbohydrates per day. The dietary guidelines for Americans recommend that carbohydrates make up 45 to 65% of total daily calories. High carbohydrate intake ranges of 5 to 7 grams per kilogram per day for general training needs, and 7 to 10 grams per kilogram per day for the increased needs of endurance athletes are suggested. Carbohydrate recommendations range from 6 to 10 grams per kilogram of body weight, depending on gender and physical fitness level of the individual, total training load, energy expenditure, type of physical activity, and environment. High carb, greater than 5 grams of carb per kilogram body weight, with the fat remaining of calories if you live an active lifestyle or if you prefer high carb or both. Mainly for sport athletes that also do resistance training, or if you have 2 sessions a day. Slater et al. Recommends 4 to 7 grams per kilogram per day for strength athletes and bodybuilders. Dextrose. The boost in calories and easy to break down nature of dextrose can benefit bodybuilders or those looking to increase muscle mass. Bodybuilders might use dextrose before or after their workouts. Before their workouts, if their energy levels are low, dextrose can give an immediate boost of energy. After workouts, during recovery, dextrose is a quick way to provide your muscles with recovery carbs and help facilitate the absorption of protein. Glycogen is made of long chains of glucose molecules that gets broken down to fuel everything from your brain to muscles to organs. In muscles, where much of it is stored, glycogen functions as an immediate reserve source of glucose for muscle cells. Following intense workouts, we drain much of our reserves. However, the refueling is necessary after your tank is drained. The fastest way to refuel your glycogen after workouts is to use a simple sugar such as dextrose. As a simple sugar, it's fast digesting and is ready to be absorbed since it's fast digesting. Dextrose is a readily absorbed isomer, also known as D-glucose. Dextrose helps drive nutrient uptake in cells. Dextrose has another great impact on sports nutrition. After a hard workout, it is critical to get the needed nutrients to fuel the muscles. To repair and refuel, lots of nutrients must be moved around the body. Insulin is famous for its many roles in the human body. As a hormone, insulin serves in the transportation system for nutrients. In a sense, it helps nutrients from the bloodstream to the muscles to start the recovery and rebuilding process. The nutrients in the bloodstream are going to build up your muscle tissue, and the insulin involved in the transportation from the bloodstream to improve your performance. Because dextrose is a fast-digesting simple sugar, it helps to raise blood sugar glucose levels quickly, causing a fast spike in nutrient-transporting insulin into the bloodstream. It's important to remember high glucose levels from snacks throughout the day will cause insulin spikes. If the spike is from unhealthy eating, you will drive nutrients into fat cells as well. Remember, dextrose speeds up nutrient absorption, whereas a slower digesting carbohydrate would not help shuttle nutrients as fast. Athletes need to start the rebuilding and refueling as soon as possible, and dextrose gets the job done. Timing. Athletes seem to benefit from 200 to 300 grams of carbohydrates consumed 3 to 4 hours before the athletic event. Pre-game meal targets to prepare the athlete for the upcoming event, providing him with carbohydrates, electrolytes, and water. Carbohydrates are essential to maintain blood glucose levels and maximize glycogen stores. During exercise, athletes should consume 30 to 60 grams of carbohydrates per hour or 0.7 grams per kilogram of body weight in order to maintain blood glucose levels. This is of extreme importance when the event lasts more than an hour and it takes place in extreme environmental conditions, cold, heat, or high altitude. After exercise, athletes should consume 1 to 1.5 grams per kilogram of body weight during the first half hour and every 2 hours for 4 to 6 hours in order to replace liver and muscle glycogen stores. Carbohydrate intake can enhance training capacity and may consist the trigger point for winning an event and achieving the best possible performance. I'm sorry for any wrong grammar. A lot of this has just been copy-pasted from the sources, from the websites. So please excuse any bad grammar and all the rest of it. This is just me reading what these articles have to say. I've tried to fix them when they're too terrible, but as you can hear, some of it doesn't make some of it hasn't been edited properly, basically, let's say. Type. Complex versus simple. Winner. Complex. You need complex carbs. Complex carbs digest much more slowly than simple carbs due to their long-chain molecular structure. Complex carbs are also made of sugars, but they do not spike blood insulin. They keep your blood glucose stable and provide a sustained energy release. These types of carbohydrates work best for prolonged training, improving endurance, building more muscle, and optimizing body composition. Complex carbs slow the absorption of sugar, slowing digestion, which keeps you feeling fuller for longer. There's no blood sugar roller coaster with complex carbs. Good sources. Many athletes should exceed the upper range of servings for these food groups, that is, bread, cereals, legumes, more than 10 servings a day, vegetables, more than 5 servings a day, fruits, more than 4 servings a day, milk alternatives, more than 3 servings a day, Athletes with lower energy need of small body shape are advised to select nutrient-dense foods in order to obtain adequate carbohydrates. Fruit, vegetables, sweet potatoes, oats, quinoa, whole wheat bread, whole wheat pasta, yams, and brown rice are all examples of good sources of carbohydrates. Onto protein, my favorite macronutrient. Amount 1.6 to 3.3 grams per kilogram of body weight. To gain muscle, most people should aim for 1.6 to 2.4 grams per kilogram of body weight. If you are of healthy weight and active and wish to build muscle, aim for 1.6 to 2.4 grams per kilogram or 0.73 to 1.1 grams per pound. Intakes as high as 3.3 grams per kilogram may help experienced lifters minimize fat gain when bulking. Consuming 2.6 to 3.5 grams per kilogram of protein per kilogram of fat-free mass may increase the likelihood or magnitude of recomposition. Protein supplements, whey and casein, may be used as a means to increase daily dietary protein intake as well as a tool to maximize muscle protein synthesis. From now on, I'm going to refer to that as MPS. Muscle supplementation beyond total protein intakes of 1.6 grams per kilogram per day resulted in no further resistance exercise training induced gains in fat-free mass. Dietary protein supplementation significantly enhanced changes in muscle strength and size during prolonged resistance exercise training in healthy adults. Increasing age reduces and training experience increases the efficacy of protein supplementation during resistance exercise training. Consuming 5.5 times the recommended daily allowance of protein has no effect on body composition in resistance-trained individuals who otherwise maintain the same training regimen. No significant changes over time or between groups for body weight, fat mass, fat-free mass, or percent body fat. So basically what that's saying is there isn't an upper limit for protein as far as I can tell. Good sources of protein: eggs, salmon, chicken breast, tuna, lean beef, turkey breast, lean jerky, also known as biltong in South Africa, the equivalent. These are my favorite coming up: biltong, meat, chicken, fish, beef, ostrich, pork, eggs, cheese, whey protein powder, and casein protein powder. Onto the macronutrient that is often neglected: fats. Amount 15 to 30% of caloric intake as fats, or greater than 0.5 grams per kilogram per day, seems to be a good ballpark amount. Fat should be consumed in moderate amounts, 0.5 to 1.5 grams per kilogram per day. Keep the fat intake at a minimum of 15% of caloric intake, roughly 0.5 grams per kilogram per day. 15 to 30% of calories from fat. If gaining muscle is your goal, getting around 15 to 20% of your calories from fat is ideal. In summary, the composition of diets for bodybuilders should be 55 to 60% carbohydrate, 25 to 30% protein, and 15 to 20% of fat. The American College of Sports Medicine recommends a 20 to 35% fat intake for athletes. Type of fat. Unsaturated fat is the healthiest type of fat. It's the kind of fat mostly found in plant-based foods and oils as well as fatty fish. Good fat source examples: eggs, salmon, avocado, nuts, flaxseed, dark chocolate, cheese, whole eggs, of course, not egg whites, but whole eggs. Probiotics. Pertaining to muscle mass, the results of our meta-analysis highlight the positive effect of probiotic supplementation across populations below the mean age of 50, utilizing a longer-term, greater than equal to 12 weeks treatment duration, and specifically consuming bifidobacterium in Asian countries. Probiotics play a pivotal role in the maintenance of health through the effects on the regulation of bone and skeletal muscle, the metabolism of energy and various nutrients, the inflammatory response, the intestinal barrier function, the immune function, the improvement of oxidative stress, and the alleviation of psychological stress, thereby reducing exercise fatigue and improving exercise performance. Water hydration. Water. Several studies suggest that cell dehydration may have severe effects on muscle, leading to catabolism, anabolic resistance, and muscle wasting, as well as impaired muscle contractile capacity. Electrolytes. Electrolytes are essential to normal skeletal muscle contraction and are thought to play a role in muscle fatigue. Excess accumulation of ammonia and hydrogen ions after strenuous bouts of physical activity are thought to slow muscle contractions and decrease muscle tension development. Sodium is the main cation in extracellular fluid with a multitude of benefits for both the general population and the sporting world, such as contributing to the release of digestive secretions and controlling the absorption of certain nutrients like amino acids, glucose, galactose, and water. In addition, it ensures sufficient blood volume, blood pressure, and ultimately organ perfusion. It's also vital for the stimulation of muscle and nerve cells and is involved in the control of the acid-base balance. In the sports section, sodium helps maintain serum electrolyte concentrations, resulting in a balance of intravascular osmotic pressure and plasma volume. It increases the thirst stimulus and reduces the amount of urine produced, effects that ultimately reduce physical fatigue and medical problems associated with these homeostatic imbalances in endurance sports. However, attention should be paid to excess sodium, which contributes to high blood pressure and damage to certain organs such as the heart, kidneys, and bones. In contrast, a low intake has been associated with an increase of cardiovascular events and death, independent of blood pressure levels. Turning to the main issue, despite the positive effects of sodium consumption, such as maintaining aldosterone and vasopressin production, increasing thirst stimulation and decreasing urine production, enhancing electrolyte balance and stimulating water retention in the body, resulting in a reduction of physical fatigue in endurance sports. Sodium is an element that should not be missing from people's diets. Thus, the ideal amount of sodium intake in the largest range of the population appeared to be in the range of 1.5 grams per day. However, it is equally important for endurance athletes to consume 300 to 600 milligrams an hour. It was also noted that there is no documented scientific evidence on the relationship between sodium and muscle cramps. Finally, attention should first be paid to the individual amounts of fluids consumed and then to the amount of sodium consumed. Potassium chloride. In simple terms, the study found that when muscle cells were exposed to a specific amount of potassium chloride, a chemical, it caused the cells to produce more of a growth factor called IGF-1. This increase in IGF-1 helps with muscle growth. In simpler terms, this research suggests that when muscles work hard, they release potassium chloride, which can stimulate the production of growth factors in nearby cells, helping muscles grow and repair. Higher dietary potassium intake decreases the odds of low muscle mass index in men, but not in women. Higher potassium intakes were also associated with a greater SMI, skeletal muscle index. Meal feeding or timing. Fasting, 16-8. Our results suggest that an intermittent fasting program in which all calories are consumed in an 8-hour window each day in conjunction with resistance training could improve some health-related biomarkers, decrease fat mass, and maintain muscle mass in resistance-trained males. Hypertrophic training in a fasted or in a fed state during Ramadan does not affect body mass and body composition of bodybuilders. Eating window, before workouts or after. Based on these results, it may not matter whether or not you exercise fasted if your goal is weight loss. However, it is possible that training fasted could impair your exercise performance, particularly for serious athletes. Overall, it seems that exercising while fasted may be a matter of personal preference. It will probably not make your exercise more effective, and it's even possible that exercising fasted will decrease your performance. However, some people enjoy exercising fasted. If you choose to do this, it is recommended that you get 20 plus grams of protein soon after exercising to support muscle recovery. Protein timing throughout the day. Both nighttime and daytime protein consumption as part of a 24-hour nutrition approach are effective for increasing strength and hypertrophy, the results support the strategy of achieving specific daily protein levels versus specific timing of protein ingestion for increasing muscle mass and performance. Immediately before bed, pre-sleep. You ought to be consuming casein protein roughly 30 minutes before sleeping, so immediately before bed. Studies have shown that pre-sleep casein protein ingestion timing, 30 minutes before sleep, amount of casein protein ingested, 40 to 48 grams, could help post-exercise recovery and positively affect acute protein metabolism and exercise performance. In addition, studies have suggested that repeated pre-sleep casein protein ingestion for post-exercise recovery over a long period might also result in chronic effects that optimize intramuscular physiological adaptation, muscle strength, and muscle hypertrophy. The potential mechanisms of pre-sleep casein protein ingestion that contribute to these effects include the following. 1. Significantly increasing plasma amino acid availability during sleep, thereby increasing protein synthesis, inhibiting protein breakdown, and achieving a positive protein balance, and weakening exercise-induced muscle damage or inflammatory responses, causing reduced muscle soreness. Pre-sleep protein. Protein ingestion prior to sleep increases mitochondrial and myofibrillar protein synthesis rates during overnight recovery from exercise. The overnight muscle protein synthetic response to whey and casein protein does not differ. 30 minutes before sleep. In conclusion, post-exercise ingestion of at least 40 grams of casein protein approximately 30 minutes before sleep and after a bout of resistance exercise in the evening might be an effective nutritional intervention to facilitate muscle recovery. Pre-sleep protein. Protein ingestion prior to sleep can be accompanied in combination with resistance-type exercise training to further augment the gains in muscle mass and strength when compared to no protein supplementation. Before and after training feeding. You ought to be consuming protein before and after training. You ought to consume dextrose during training. You ought to consume carbohydrates immediately after training. You ought to consume essential amino acids and dextrose prior to training. Before training, essential amino acids and dextrose. The composition of essential amino acids and dextrose appears to be most effective at evoking protein synthesis prior to rather than following resistance exercise. During training, high glycemic carbs replenish glycogen stores more quickly and more maximally. Sufficient carbohydrate ingestion during exercise helps maintain liver glycogen stores and has been reported to spare glycogen in type 2 fast-twitch muscle cells. And nothing is going to be better than dextrose. It's the fastest thing possible. It's a mirror image of glucose just flipped immediately after exercise. Thus, the combined evidence suggests a strategic advantage of practicing early post-exercise consumption of whey protein or dairy-based protein to promote MPS, net muscle protein accretion, and ultimately hypertrophy. An ideal protein supplement after resistance exercise should contain whey protein, as this will rapidly digest and initiate muscle MPS, and provide 3 to 4 grams of leucine per serving, which is instrumental in promoting maximal MPS. A combination of a fast-acting carbohydrate source, such as maltodextrin or glucose, should be consumed with the protein source, as leucine cannot modulate MPS as effectively without the presence of insulin, and studies using protein sources with a carbohydrate source tended to increase lean body mass more than did a protein source alone. Such a supplement would be ideal for increasing MPS, resulting in increased muscle hypertrophy and strength. In contrast, the consumption of essential amino acids and dextrose appears to be most effective at evoking MPS prior to rather than following resistance exercise. Post-workout. Consuming 2.6 to 3.5 grams per kilogram of protein per kilogram of fat-free mass may increase the likelihood of magnitude of recomposition. Protein supplements, whey and casein, may be used as a means to increase daily dietary protein intake as well as a tool to maximize MPS. This may be of greater importance post-workout as a means to maximize the recomposition effect. Before and after training. Consumption of protein or amino acids and carbohydrate immediately before and after training sessions may augment MPS, muscle glycogen resynthesis, and reduce protein degradation. The optimal rate of carbohydrate ingested immediately after a training session should be 1.2 grams per kilogram per hour at 30-minute intervals for 4 hours, and the carbohydrate should be of high glycemic index. Although the protein group had a lower protein intake in terms of total food intake than the placebo group, the mean changes in muscle circumference, strength, and exercise volume increased, especially at week 12 compared to the placebo group. These results suggest that the composition and timing of protein intake are more important than the total amount. In general, protein supplements pre- and or post-workout increase physical performance, training session recovery, lean body mass, muscle hypertrophy, and strength. Number of meals and protein per meal. It seems a minimum of 4 meals a day is needed to maximize muscle growth. Number of meals and protein per meal. To maximize anabolism, one should consume an intake of between 0.4 and 0.55 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per meal across a minimum of 4 meals per day. Combining resistance training with a balanced protein distribution rescued rates of myofibrillar protein synthesis during ER to the levels observed during energy balance. ER stands for energy restriction. We contend that the combination of resistance training and a balanced diet of daily protein in the context of a higher protein diet may represent an effective strategy to allow for fat mass loss during ER without exacerbating sarcopenic muscle loss. Balance 25% daily protein per meal times 4. During energy restriction in overweight or obese older men, a balanced consumption of protein stimulated the synthesis of muscle contractile proteins more effectively than traditional skewed distribution. Combining resistance training with a balanced protein distribution rescued the lower rates of myofibrillar protein synthesis during the moderate ER. Big no-nos. No alcohol, or keep your alcohol to a minimum at least. We conclude that alcohol ingestion suppresses the anabolic response in skeletal muscle and may therefore impair recovery and adaptation to training and or subsequent performance. Our results suggest that alcohol may have detrimental effects on muscle mass at higher levels of consumption in middle and older age people. Cortisol levels seem to be increased while testosterone, plasma amino acids, and rates of muscle protein synthesis decreased. Chronic alcohol consumption leads to muscle weakness and atrophy in part by suppressing protein synthesis and mTORC1 mediated signaling. Consistency, not screwing up your weekends. Weekend calories still count. Training on the weekend still counts. The weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, is 3 out of 7 days of the week, which is equal to greater than 40% of your week. Concerns about whey protein powder. Overall, our results suggest that the typical intake of dietary supplements would not result in adverse health effects due to heavy metals. Thank you for listening to the Diet tab on the Public Gains Guru's Hypertrophy Blueprint. Cool. So I just took you through the first tab, the Diet tab of the Gains Guru's Hypertrophy Blueprint. What I want to do now is briefly show you my Reps with Roscoe Medium blog. Here I'm going to be posting things like supplements, hormones, things like fitness, anything related to fitness and hypertrophy. So what I'm going to do is I'm very briefly just going to read you some of the titles and just go through it like that very briefly. Some of the titles that I've published so far on my Medium blog at reps with Roscoe. Basic testosterone mechanisms in men, a simple explanation, unraveling the wonders of intermittent fasting, a layman's guide to health, aging, and disease, exploring the multifaceted potential benefits and considerations of ashwagandha, the impact of post-exercise cold water immersion on resistance training-induced muscle growth, mastering the 6 foundational movement patterns, a summary of Dr. John Ruson's article on T-Nation, the Natty line, the enhanced scale for muscle growth, the RICE protocol is a myth, a review and recommendation summary. Next, I'd like to share with you something quite personal, but it is my gym goals. Studies have shown that showing your goals and sharing them with other people increases the likelihood that you will at least attempt to achieve the goals. Okay, so I'm going to start with this year's goals, 2024, and then I'll go to 2025, 2026, etc. Goals for this year, 2024. Squat goal, 130 kilograms. Bench press goal, 125 kilograms. Deadlift goal, 250 kilograms. Overhead press goal, 70 kilograms. And weighted pull-up, 50 kilograms. The final goal is a 500 kilogram SBD total. 2025. Squat goal, 135. Bench press goal, 130. Deadlift goal, 260. 2026. Squat goal, 150. Bench press goal, 135. Deadlift goal, 270. 2027. Squat goal, 140. Bench press goal, 140. Deadlift goal, 280. 2028. Squat goal, 165. Bench press goal, 145. Deadlift goal, 290. 2029 is the end of my 5-year gym goals, and this represents really big milestones for me, and this is what I want my 2029 SBD to be. Squat goal, 180 kilograms. Bench press goal, 150 kilograms. Deadlift goal, 300 kilograms. I am pursuing a 300 kilogram deadlift. I am currently sitting at a 240 kilogram deadlift. So this is a 60 kilogram increase over 5 years, which equates to roughly 12 kilograms increase per year. Do you think that I can do it? I guess we'll have to just wait and see. Lastly, I'd like to share with you my latest gym workout plan. It's very different to anything I've ever done before, and it's very different to most things that I've seen online. I have used aspects from top trainers and personal trainers. I have never seen anything exactly like this before. I'm sure it has been done before, but this is something that I came up with pretty much by myself, using science and utilizing the knowledge that I've gained from top professionals. So I hope that this can be useful for you. I've tried to incorporate a lot of the foundational movement patterns as described by Dr. John Ruson. So let's go through the workout plan. The program is divided into 2-week segments, week 1 and week 2. And then we alternate between week 1 and week 2 every week. So I'm just going to go through what's written here, and then I'll explain what the key is. I was doing full body training 5 times per week. I've decided I've been doing that for the last 2 years. It's really awesome. It's a great way to get a lot of volume. But what I'm trying now is I'm trying a lower upper power lift split. I've never seen this before, but I think it's got a lot of potential to be really good. It's trying to ensure that I hit each major muscle group twice per week, and that I still get to do the power lifts. So this is what you'd call a power building program, where the emphasis is on building muscle and gaining strength at the same time. Week 1, lower 1. Leg press, seated hamstring curl, calf raises, suitcase carry, tib raises, sled push and drag. Week 1, upper 1. Weighted pull-ups, dumbbell chest press, horizontal plane rows, single arm overhead tricep extensions, easy bar preacher curl, side crunch. Week 1, lower 2, adductors and abductors machine, Smith machine hip thrusts, split squats, calf raises, single leg seated hamstring curls, cable crunches. Week 1, upper 2, vertical plane pull downs, overhead press, back extensions, Bayesian bicep curls, single arm rear delt pull arounds, triceps. Week 1, power lifts, squat, bench, deadlift. Week 2, lower 1, squats, seated hamstring curl, calf raises, farmer walk, tip raises, sled push, and drag. Week 2, upper 1, Jefferson curls, chest flies, single arm rear delt pull arounds, single arm overhead tricep extensions, single arm Bayesian cable curl, side crunch. Week 2, lower 2, adductors and abductors machine, Smith machine hip thrusts, Smith machine split squats, calf raises, RDLs, abs. Week 2, upper 2, vertical plane pull downs, seated dumbbell shrugs, French press, Bayesian bicep curls, incline press, cable single arm side lateral raise. Week 2, power lifts, squat, bench, deadlift. Let's go over the key. Squats. So this is excluding in the power lifts, because obviously in the power lift it's just regular barbell back squat. Same for bench press, barbell bench press, flat, and also deadlift, also just barbell deadlift. That's on the powerlift days. During the non-powerlift days, the key here are the keys: squats, hack squat, front squat, goblet squat, Smith machine squat, belt squat. RDLs, dumbbell RDLs, belt RDL, kettlebell RDL, single leg barbell Romanian deadlifts, Smith machine RDL, stiff-legged deadlift, deficit RDL. Horizontal plane rows, perpendicular to back. So that's any movement that's going to be perpendicular to my back. Chest supported row, seal row. Vertical plane pull downs in line with back. Lat pull downs, single arm lat pull downs. Calf raises, standing dumbbell calf raises, standing machine calf raises, Smith machine calf raises, leg press calf raise or toe press, single leg variations. Bicep concentration curl, bicep concentration curl, bicep cable curl, cable preacher curl. So the bicep concentration curl can replace maybe one of the Bayesian bicep curls somewhere. So as you can see, I have the squat, the hinge, the lunge, the push, the pull, and the carry. Let me know your thoughts, and let me know how you think I can improve this program to be more optimal for muscle growth and strength increases. All right, so that brings us to the end of this episode. As usual, I will be giving myself the standard ending. If I was traveling on a spaceship to Mars and I had a spacesuit that could only be programmed to do 10 exercises, what 10 exercises would I choose? The 10 exercises that I would choose to maintain as much muscle mass and strength as possible would be squat, bench press, deadlift, weighted pull-up, overhead press, calf raise, seated hamstring curl, Bayesian bicep curl, overhead tricep extensions, and something for core, a weighted decline sit-up or a cable crunch if I can find a nice way to lock into the cable crunch machine without the limiting factor being my grip. Some top dogs in the industry to watch: Bill Campbell, Jeff Nippert, Dr. Pack, Dr. Wolf, Brad Schoenfeld, Derek for More Plates, More Dates, and Dr. Lane Norton, BioLane. This is by no means complete list, but it's a good start for anyone looking for other top guys to watch. Closing thoughts. What advice or parting words of wisdom do I have for the listeners who are looking to embark on their own journey of muscle growth and health? I would say listen to this podcast more. No, I'm kidding, but also not. Get your friends involved. The most important thing is to do your best at everything you do, whether that's fitness related or life related. So just go out there, do your best, have fun, work out hard, train hard, diet well. I really hope that this podcast can be useful. Please, if you like it, please feel free to comment, to leave a rating. You can give us up to a 5-star rating. And please feel free to follow any of the social media. The page, the Muscle Growth Podcast, is there on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and X. The handle is the Muscle Growth Podcast on all socials except for X, where the handle is just Muscle Podcast. And I would really appreciate it. If you guys ever have any questions, you can reach out to me. I'm at Reps with Roscoe on Instagram. And if you guys ever want any information or you ever want me to do an episode with someone, please reach out, comment. I will read the comments and I will try my best to get that person onto the podcast. And thank you so much for your support. And I wish you all the best in your muscle growth journey. Let's enable everyone to become bigger, stronger, and better together. Goodbye, Gains Gurus. Thank you for listening and see you on the next episode of TMGP.